Hello and welcome to another advanced skeleton video tutorial. This time we're gonna have a closer look at the face setup. But we're starting with a new character, so we're gonna first quickly do a body rig. It's recommended that you bring in your geometry via referencing, so that any model updates can easily come into your rig file. Next I'm gonna quickly go through the standard advanced skeleton body setup. Okay, so we're now ready for face setup. First we're going to define the pieces of geometry associated with the face. This will be the main face surface. Now the next one is going to be all the surfaces associated with the head. This will include eyes, eyebrow, eyelashes, the face itself, and in this case we got some separate eye glint objects. Next is the left eyes, and note that we can select more than one object. So if you have separate objects for pupils, iris, etc., like in this case we have a separate glint object, you can select multiple objects. Now for the right side, upper teeth. Now if your model had separate geometry for the teeth, you would simply select it and hit the button. Now this model, however, does have the teeth as part of the main mesh, so we need to select the vertices associated with the upper teeth and the lower teeth and plot it in here. In order to make it easy to select the mesh, I'm going to use the hypershade and select all objects with the teeth material and isolate the selection. Next we're on to the loops section. In this section we're going to select edge loops to define the areas for the eyelids and the lip. Here we find an interesting scenario. I'm double clicking on the edge to get the edge loop around the eye. However, the model topology does not have the loop running around the eye. But that is not a problem. We will simply adjust the selection to make our own loop. And we have a loop. So we'll define this as the outer eyelid, and you'll see joints being created, one for each vertex around the loop. Next we're going to keep selecting edge loop closer and closer to the eyelid. Now that I've reached this edge loop quite close to where the eye would completely close during a blink, I'm going to define this as the inner eyelid. But I'm going to go ahead and define one more edge loop to make sure all these points are included when closing the eye. Next we're moving on to the lip loops. Now in this case you can see the edge lip runs nearly all the way around. It's just missing two edges, so we're just going to add to the selection these two edges. That's going to be the outer lips, and note that the joints being generated along the edge loop for the lips is right side only and going to be mirrored later. And then we'll keep defining edge loops until we are well inside the lip. At this point it's starting to get a little bit tricky to select the edge loop, as the next ones are on the inside of the mouth. But here's a quick trick to make it easier to select it, using soft mode. Note that I'm using the soft mode to open the lip a little bit to make it easier to go inside the lip and make the selection for the next edge loop. However, it's important not to define the edge loop while the lip is open. The joints will be in the wrong place. So what I've done is a quick animation on the soft mode, so I can scrub back in time. Now I have the correct edge loop selected, scroll back in time, it's at the right position, and that's the next lips. Alright. Now next is vertices. Now in this section there's a handful of points that needs to be defined across the face, and the way to do it is to select vertices on the model and hit the buttons as you go through. Now to help keep track of them all, there are little checkboxes for the ones that are done, and there's a little help image showing you where the point goes. The next step is a very simple step. It's skin eyes, which will simply bind the geometry of the eyes to the eye joints, and we can quickly test that that's working. The next section is called jaw curve, and this is doing the weighting for the jaw. We start off with creating a jaw curve. Now this curve we can quickly adjust in the side view to define the shape of the deformation we want on the jaw. Then we're going to select all the vertices that are going to have more or less jaw weighting. There's a help image showing you roughly the area that you're after. This is best selected from the side view. Now we're going to go just on top of the lips, under the nose, include some of the cheeks, go down below the ear, and this way down the neck. That's our jaw area. We're going to hit skin jaw, and we can test the deformation with this slider. Next section is called the head squash. It's got a little asterisk indicating this is an optional section, and it applies best to cartoony characters. Now we're going to go ahead and add this. Create a base locator. Help image shows you where it should be positioned, which is just under the chin. Top locator goes just on top of the head. Next section is the tongue, and this creates tongue joints, and we're just going to put them into place running along the tongue. Next section is also optional. It's the cage. Now we'll go ahead and run this, and once the cage has been created, you might want to just fine-tune some of the points that might have ended up inside the surface. Just push them back out. Then create the head cage. Now the purpose of the head cage is to isolate the deformation of the facial expression so it doesn't start deforming things like the top of the head or the back of the head. Then the eyelid is going to create a small cage running right along the eyelid, and the purpose of that is to isolate the deformation coming from the cheek and the eyebrows so that it does not affect the shape of the eyelid at all. This is optional. For some cartoony looking characters, this might be actually something that you're after, so you lift an eyebrow and it changes the shape of the eye. Next, it's time to build the face setup. Once the face setup is complete, we can start testing the controllers. So let's have a quick look at the last two sections of the face setup tool. This is the tweak lip fall off, which is essentially controlling this area around the lip. You only need to adjust this if finding hard creases in the deformation around the lip as you move the lip corner, but in this case it's looking good. And this is the blend shape tweaker. Now this is where you can control each of the underlying blend shapes. Now in order to run this, you gotta first kick in one of the blend shapes. Start off, make sure you're in build pose. grab one of the yellow controls and move it 100% in one direction. You can now create the blend shape target. You'll notice it'll create the target both the left and the right hand side. You can then go ahead and make any sculpt changes that you want. And once you're done, just delete the target, or you can grab it in the outliner. It's called delete this. There's also a blend shape wizard, which essentially steps through each and every one of the blend shapes and create the target for checking and possibly sculpting. Now that's it for this video tutorial covering the FaceSetup tool. We'll finish up with this video, which is a quick facial animation test of the rig we just built. See you next time.